I'm not shitting you guys. This training said this was a training for therapists, people who handle people's emotions, that women are more emotional during the menopause transition because A, they can't have sex, B, that then causes them anxiety that their partner is going to leave them, and then thus equals C, mood changes. I'm not fucking shitting you. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. Before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you don't want to miss any content that's being dropped, make sure you hit that notification bell as well. I also want to know who are the people you want to hear from on this show and what topics would you like me to continue to cover. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now, let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and align you with better beliefs around yourself, your body, and food. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, a licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession and certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. And in today's episode, I'm giving you the Perimenopause Playbook. These are the exact lifestyle change that you can implement in your life today to help reduce the symptoms and effects of changing hormones. So if you're just feeling like your body is not your own, you'll definitely want to stay tuned, because here at the Mindset Mirror Connection, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's chat about it. Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today and talking about the Perimenopause Playbook. For those of you new to this podcast, I'm going to just chat and banter about my life. So if you do not want to hear anything about that and want to fast forward to the conversation at hand, check out the show notes below for that information. This is our second podcast without Coach Amanda, and obviously she is very missed, but definitely getting good feedback. Thank you guys for your understanding and for reaching out. It's been really wonderful to hear from you. So thank you so much. Before I get into this episode, I want to announce our winner of the comment contest that we had last month. Congratulations to Kelly O'Connor for winning our comment contest. If you're wondering how we put this in, we actually take all of the comments and we put it into a raffle app. That app chooses the winner for us. Kelly O'Connor, you get a free copy of the self-led course. Now, let's get into the episode. I want to talk about, I was listening to a podcast. I won't say what podcast it was, but it was a fitness influencer on the podcast, and she has worked for one of the largest online fitness programs out there. And something stood out to me in her conversation. Now, I really enjoyed what she was talking about, but she had said, I gained 5 pounds in a week and my clothes were fitting really tight and I felt disgusting. And so I came back immediately, called my doctor and was like, I can't do this. Now, she was talking about the changes in her body hormonally. And yes, we can definitely retain a good amount of water. But what she didn't say was that, right? Like I was really retaining a lot of water, not that I gained weight. Then she went on to say later that the women who are in her program lose 5 pounds in the first week. I just feel like that information without the context of losing inflammation or water retention really only influences this idea that these weight anomalies on this scale are something that is actually gaining fat. It's not, right? You can have a high sodium meal and gain 5 pounds, if you will, on the scale. But what stood out to me, I mean, this is a very large platform that she was on, and just listening to that information of, oh, I'll lose 5 pounds on the scale and not having the context and understanding of what that actually means, I think can be very detrimental because fat mass doesn't fluctuate like that. So I just thought it was something that made me think about like really paying attention to the information that we're consuming, because it can be damaging thinking like, oh, I'm going to go in this program, I'm going to lose 5 pounds of fat in 1 week, and then feeling like you didn't do that or feeling like a failure, or maybe it was water weight and then you drink some water and you put that weight back on, and then it's so focused on the pounds. that can be super detrimental to you because you're going to feel, again, like I said, like a failure when you don't see the 5 pounds, or you drop 5 pounds, but maybe you're not seeing a change in your body. So just wanted to throw that out there. We are, let's see, this weekend. So this past weekend, we celebrated our friend Skylar's 10-year anniversary for his restaurant. And let me talk about dudes. So this, his restaurant chain, I guess, restaurant group, that sounds sexier, is up in northern Arizona. And we were invited to go to this anniversary party. So we did. Myself, my husband, and two of our guy friends went. And so we get there and I'm wearing clothes for the anniversary party. So I have like heels that are like some Steve Madden heels, jeans, like a nice top, and like a sweater like this, but tan. And, the heels aren't necessarily going out being on my feet all day heels. They're not heels. They're like booties, I guess you would say. And so we get there, we're like, whatever, yay, happy anniversary, drinking my non-alcoholic beer. And Skylar, the guy who owns the restaurants, was like, hey, there's a concert at Watson Lake. I love Watson Lake. It's so beautiful. It's Arrested Development, Modest Yahoo, and Cheap Trick. Do you guys want to go? And of course, the guys are like, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, fuck, I don't have shoes for this concert, and I don't have an outfit. And y'all know me, I like to put myself together. So I'm just like, come on. I mean, I know obviously they don't think that way. And it's just so funny. And I'm like in crisis mode because I don't have heels or shoes. So then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Luckily, I brought this like kind of Lululemon top similar to this to wear home. And I had these actual like just like Vans to slip on. So I did have shoes. I was able to change. But when you're not looking like everyone else. And not that you should look like everyone else. You know what I mean, though? It was like kind of like it's called Pure Imagination concert. So it was very reggae, hippie-ish. Don't ask me why Cheap Trick was there. They really didn't fit in. So, I like to vibe. I like to look like everyone else. But here I am in like Vans and a workout top. So that was my issue this weekend. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about, though, where you're just, I like to dress for an occasion, and that was not my style, but then I got over it. And interestingly, on my non-alcoholic journey, I think I'm going to be breaking that this coming weekend. We're going on a trip to Mexico, and I am going to partake in some drinks. It's been 2 months. But again, I said I'm soberish. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if I'll drink. I really am loving not drinking. I'm not going to lie. It's been, I mean, what's kind of sad though, coming back to this weekend, is I woke up on Sunday and I had the absolute worst stomach ache. So we ate kind of these little bites throughout the night. And finally, my husband's like, I need to eat something. So there was this food truck, and they had mac and cheese that had chicken and green chilies. And I was like, I'll just have a slice of cheese pizza. So Mark got the mac and cheese, and I got what I thought was a slice of cheese pizza. But instead, they gave me a whole cheese mac and cheese, and I didn't want to wait any longer for food. So I was like, it's fine, I'll eat this. So I take a couple of bites. I'm like, I don't even like this. Like, this doesn't taste good to me. So then I have a little bit of Mark's, which actually tasted better. My stomach hurt so freaking bad. Like, you guys, TMI, but I had to stop like immediately. I was not doing well. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm hydrating and all the things. And I still wake up with bubble guts. What is this? So that was not fun for me. But today seems fine. It was so weird. Every time I ate yesterday, just my stomach hurt so bad. And I was just a gassy mess. Today, perfectly fine. So who knows what it was. But I maybe just that inflammation of my gut from all of the cheese and just foods I don't normally eat. I don't know, but I feel better today, which is great. Speaking of feeling kind of gross in your body, I am, as I've talked about many times, my recent labs showed that I was in perimenopause, and I'm going to have Dr. Jordan Trapp on to talk about labs, especially around perimenopause, what they should say, what's the best labs, etc. So I'm not going to get into that part of it. But I've said this on the podcast before, and I think it's really important to repeat that when I had my hysterectomy, my ovaries were left behind. This was in an effort to not put me into early menopause. However, since then, this was 7, 8 years ago. Since then, the research has shown that when you do have any sort of abdominal surgery, specifically a hysterectomy, that it actually pushes you 4 years into perimenopause. So at 42, I have this kind of 46-year-old experience with my hormones. Now, I don't know if it's like tried and true or like hard and fast for the 4 years. However, my particular labs show that my LH and my FSH are in a perimenopausal state. It also shows that I am more estrogen dominant. My testosterone is low. And now this is just a snapshot in time. I'm currently using my heart rate, my temperature, and my average heart rate each day to start to track where my cycle is. And it's been very interesting doing this because last week, my temperature was upwards between 0.5 and 0.9 degrees. And this week, my temperature is exactly around like 0 to 0.1 difference in temperature. Resting heart rate was different too. So I will have a guest on to kind of talk about that. I think that that's really important to know that you can track your cycles during this time with using something like an Oura ring. So we'll touch on that. But anyways, because this is my life and this is my friends' lives, I want to be the go-to person for anyone struggling with perimenopause. And for a lot of us, we're going to be told like, oh, you're too young for that. You just need more sleep, or you're just stressed out. You will leave your doctor's office with an SSRI before you will leave a doctor's office with an appointment with a hormone specialist. That's going to happen probably 9 out of 10 times. I have many clients who still have a period whose doctors told them that they have a regular period, so they can't be in perimenopause, but they have the symptoms. So I'm going to go over the symptoms today. We're going to talk about again what it is, and then give you a playbook to start to work from. Now, this playbook, right? Everything that I offer on this podcast is just recommendations. Obviously, you want to speak to a physician that is knowledgeable with perimenopause and the menopause transition. I will link the list from the Menopause Society of local providers in your area so that you can choose from those providers as well. I think it's incredibly important to make sure that we are working with someone who is knowledgeable in these areas. And so this kind of no BS perimenopause playbook is something that I have put together through my own research, through reading, and through seminars like the one I just went to with Dr. Mary Claire Haver. And I want to just kind of take the guesswork out of it for you, especially because on social media, this is a hot topic, right? And if you go watch Jordan Syatt's recent posts, he talks about how even women, because he got like shit on for mansplaining perimenopause, but even women are saying the wrong, or are preaching the wrong approaches to how to be as healthy as you can during this transition. And so there's a lot of just nonsense out there. The information that I'm always going to provide for you is evidence-based. It's backed by recent research. Actually, I want to talk about that because recently I posted a green screen reel where I was talking about this training that I did. And this training was from 2000 to 2010. And I'm not shitting you guys. This training said this was a training for therapists, people who handle people's emotions, that women are more emotional during the menopause transition because A, they can't have sex, B, that then causes them anxiety that their partner is going to leave them, and then thus it equals C, mood changes. I'm not fucking shitting you. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. And I gave the most scathing evaluation for that training because whenever you do continuing ed, you have to reevaluate, right? Or evaluate, excuse me. And so even then, like they continue to talk about the Women's Health Initiative from 2003 that said all of these bad things about hormone replacement that has thus been debunked, specifically around giving estrogen without progesterone. That actually has a lot of benefits to it when we give people who have a uterus estrogen alone without progesterone. Yes, That's what caused a lot of the issues. But anyway, what I want to start with is debunking the myths that perimenopause, a lot of people think it's just this thing that like hits you overnight, but it actually is a process and can start as early as your mid 30s, right? But people often think they need to be in their 50s for this transition to begin. And it's only when your period ends and then we're done. It's way earlier than that. And symptoms can show up way sooner than obviously the changes in our cycle. And I want to explain it's not just hot flashes. Hot flashes, from my research, actually indicate you're closer to the cessation of your cycle than these other symptoms that start a lot earlier. Mood swings, joint pain, weight redistribution, brain fog, and more importantly, mood changes. Mood changes and the sudden onset of depression, anxiety, just irritability, the sudden onset, whereas we did not experience that prior, is a huge sign that you are in perimenopause, as long as obviously it's not explained by something else. Other things too, just like immense fatigue, having a low sex drive, having pain during sex. There are so many symptoms, and I want to show you this graph here. Now it's a little fuzzy because I took it from my phone, but this shows the processes or the functions in your body that lowering of estrogen and progesterone, or we'll just say changing hormones, affects. And if you look at this, it is every single function in the body. So what does that mean? Your entire body is affected by perimenopause and the shifting in your hormones. It's really important for the listeners, you guys, to know this, because there are doctors who do not know this. I explained that I went to the seminar. It was all doctors, female doctors even, and a good, I would say 90% of them didn't know that at all. So what it can look like, again, is subtle changes to your cycle. Maybe they're a little bit shorter, maybe they're a little bit more, maybe even heavier, a little bit more unpredictable, right? The midsection, women will say they start to gain weight, even though they're eating relatively quote unquote clean. They're working out. They're starting to see this weight distribution around their belly button. Again, mood swings that feel uncharacteristic of you. Now, I got mood swings. So if I had a mood swing, I'd be like, that's just me, right? But I try to manage them with all of my skills. But it's this, again, uncharacteristic like onset of mood swings that's important for you to note that, holy shit. And I think it's kind of crazy because now with all of this research that I've done, I think about clients that I worked with 4 or 5 years ago who were going through this. And I remember one saying like, there's just my like mood has just been all over the place. It's affecting my husband, my family. And I do remember talking to her about the menopause transition at this time. I didn't even have the knowledge that I have today, but I'm thankful that I could be at least assistance to have her talk to someone else about it. And she has thus gotten over that hump. The other thing though, too, is like your sleep just turns garbage, right? So you may have trouble falling asleep. You wake up around 2 or 3, and what people you'll hear will say, you're tired and wired. What does that fucking mean? So you get to the end of your day, right? And it's, for me, 8 o'clock, and I lay down, and now all of a sudden I am bing, blink, right? Wide awake. I know my body feels tired, but my brain will not allow me to go to sleep because I'm in, like, it's almost as if my brain and my body are disconnected. Or then there is this wake up at 2 to 3 in the morning. Now, the wake up at 2 to 3 in the morning has been linked to, a blood sugar issue. And so we'll talk about how to manage that. And then, of course, the brain fog, the what the fuck is wrong with me? Why can't I put a sentence together? Like, why do I feel like an idiot? This is real for me. You guys know that I've had a adult diagnosis of ADHD, like a diagnosis in midlife of ADHD, because I've had it my entire life. But now that I've had these hormonal changes, and because we have so many estrogen receptors in our brain, that it affected me suddenly, where I just realized one week, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't keep trying to come back to what I'm trying to focus on. It not only was my focus even more wild, like they say squirrel, was more squirrely, but I was getting so tired of trying to bring it back to whatever task was at hand. So I have since started a non-stimulant ADHD medication. And yeah, all of these symptoms are really important for you to know. There are like probably hundreds of other symptoms. I'm just touching the top of the iceberg. And I will link a list of symptoms in the show notes so that you can see it. I also have created a menopause symptom quiz that you can take as well. Again, still not noting everything because there are hundreds of symptoms, things like frozen shoulder, things like feeling like you have like things crawling under your skin or really dry skin, issues with your, what are some of the more odd ones? Obviously, like differences in like hair on your face. There are a lot of different symptoms that we would never even equate to perimenopause, but when we look at the whole picture, like, oh my gosh, that's me. I interrupt this episode to bring this month's comment contest. This month, I am giving away a 5-product bundle for Legion Athletic products. Legion is by far my favorite supplement line as they don't have a bunch of junk in their products. Plus, like their protein powder is by far the best tasting on the market. All you have to do is drop a positive comment under this video, maybe a question about the topic at hand, maybe how you relate to the episode. Then you will be put in a drawing for this amazing package that I will draw a name at the end of the month and announce on the show. Now, back to the episode. The other part of this is a lot of you listening are high-level executives. You are leaders in your community, you're helpers, you're people that others depend on, your mothers. And the tendency for a lot of our clients is just to push through, be perfect, try harder. You oftentimes dismiss your needs, right? And you ignore those needs, ignore the little whispers that your body is saying, like, hey, you know that mood change isn't just something that is happening. And you ignore it until it fucking screams at you, right? And then we're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. We feel like we're in crisis. And it's not a crisis. It is a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call, and it's a call that we need to pay attention to. On that note, I want to talk about the 3 kind of ways women tend to manage this transition. And the first one is the over-corrector, okay? She tightens up on her food. She adds more cardio. She is doubling down on discipline, and she assumes that she just needs to control her body more, right? So we eat even less. We push even harder. We're doing all the high-intensity interval training where we're not getting a lot of rest and recovery. We're doing it every single day because that's what we've been taught we should do if we're seeing changes in our body composition or even mood, right? If exercise has been your only go-to for stress management, then you're going to be like, well, I'll just do more of it. And that dopamine and that cortisol feels good to you, right? Now, dopamine is a feel-good hormone, but cortisol shouldn't be. But you've kind of made that your normal. And why it backfires is you are really kind of working through or burning through reserves in your body that your hormones need. So this can go into what I've talked about here before, which is the pregnenolone steal. So pregnenolone is your mother hormone, and it helps to create the secondary hormones from it. Those hormones being your sex hormones, your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone. However, so pregnenolone creates progesterone. Progesterone then goes and creates the others that I talked about. However, when your cortisol is high, it steals from pregnenolone to make more of itself, which thus takes from creating more of the others. And this is incredibly important. So for that woman who is doing all the things, she is not recovering. She is pulling from an empty cup. Her sleep is shit because her body is so frazzled and out of whack, and her metabolism becomes even more resistant to what she is doing. It's not creating efficiency at all. So that is the overcorrector. The resigner is, well, I guess it's just aging. I see this shit all the time. Stop doing the thing, stop weight training, stops advocating for herself. She just kind of shrinks and hides into her aging. This by itself was one indicator of, or one of the biggest influences of mental health changes in perimenopause was the concept or the beliefs that you have around your body changing. That alone can change so many things, positive or negative. And so obviously when we just say, well, I can't do anything about it, then we don't try to do anything about it. And that backfires because we lose muscle mass, which ultimately makes our bones more brittle. We also don't feed ourselves well. We're already in this stress state. Estrogen is a very stress relieving, if you will, hormone. It's an anti-inflammatory hormone. So we're already, by the loss or the drop and changes in estrogen, a little bit more stressed in our bodies, right? Now we're eating whatever because it's just our age, and all of those highly processed foods are causing even more inflammation and stress in our bodies, right? Then not working out, not moving, that in itself is going to cause us to lose muscle. Losing muscle affects our metabolism, right? And so we're really, really not setting ourselves up for success. Then number 3 is my favorite, the research rabbit holer. You know who you are. You read everything, try every supplement, join every live Facebook group. You implement anything. You follow all the people's on TikTok, this, that, the other thing. I have the clients who are always asking me, well, I saw this on TikTok. What do you think about it? Thank God they still ask me what I think about it. But it's the listening to all the podcasts and learning a bunch of things, but having no idea how to implement them in yourself. And a lot of times what I see happens with these people is they start with the small rocks. They start with the things that don't matter. If what I mean by don't matter, they don't matter if you don't have the big rocks in place. So even HRT, well, and highly beneficial in so many ways. If your stress is like way out of whack, like you're not going to get the benefit of HRT as you would if we could manage our stress, right? If we are not focusing on our nutrition, if we are not focusing on things like strength training and movement, which is part of this playbook, then the supplements we take aren't going to matter. But people think, well, I'll take the supplement and that will be the quicker fix than actually putting in the work and the lifestyle. So knowledge without integration is a disconnection, right? You get lost in this kind of like perfectionism. Am I doing it right? You don't want to commit to something that's sustainable because it takes too much time. So which one is you? Are you the Over-Corrector, the Resigner? So remember, Over-Corrector is like, I'm going to do everything and change everything and this will fix it. The Resigner is, well, that's just me. That's just perimenopause. Or the researcher, right? I'm going to listen to all the podcasts and learn the things, but have no clue how to implement them. So speaking of implementing them, I'm going to give you a playbook today that you can walk away with around how to treat your body and your mind during this transition of life. At the Mindset of Matter, obviously, I help women get to know their bodies, get to know their brains, understand their beliefs. And I do this without having them overhaul their life, because a lot of the women that we work with are traveling for work. They have families, they're in boardrooms, they're doing all of the things. And the biggest thing for them is not adding to their plate. Or if I am adding to my plate, I need to know the return of investment. And the things that I'm going to talk about are the biggest return on your investment. So the first thing is fueling yourself for performance, longevity, mental health, cognitive health, instead of just dieting and being a dieter. So during this transition, we, of course, want to get a good amount of protein in our diet. Now, yes, protein is very important. We absolutely want to get this amount in. Dr. Mary Claire Haber does recommend 1.3 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That is vastly different from the FDA recommendation. So 1.3 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. You can put that in ChatGPT to calculate for you. Protein, so many benefits. Stabilizes your blood sugar. It is the hardest to break down, thus creating, we burn a little bit more calories when we're processing or digesting protein. It's slower to process and digest, so we have slower gastric emptying. And of course, protein and amino acids help us to build tissue, helps us to build muscle, helps us even to build, the uterine lining that we eventually shed. So protein is so, so important for the brain, for the body, so many things. However, what's also equally as important is fat. Your healthy fats, your omega-3s, your olive oil, nuts, seeds, fatty fish, things like that are incredibly important during this time. So the problem though is, we really want to focus on stabilizing the blood sugar, right? Which obviously eating, you know, fats and proteins is going to do that. Having those carbohydrates help with energy levels, but ensuring that we're also hitting our fiber goals. So 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day, and then reducing added sugar to no more than 25 to 30 grams a day. Now, you're probably listening and be like, Christina, I thought this was going to not put a lot on my plate. That's a lot to think about. You don't have to start with all four. If you're just walking into this new, start with one, and protein would be the one I start with. Now, everything is going to be individualized. So with my clients, I'm adjusting their carb intake while also adjusting their proteins and fats. For some people, they'll notice that a lower carb intake helps them feel better. For others, it's higher carb intake. It's all bio-individual to the client. So I want you guys to recognize that. And if you're thinking, well, how do I do this on my own? You can make those adjustments. So the first thing, and I'm going to talk about this down the line, is, tracking your symptoms. If I can start just by tracking my symptoms, I can get a baseline of what I'm feeling. Then I can start tracking protein intake, carb intake, fat intake, fiber, sugar. Then from there, continue to track my symptoms and see, as I'm making the changes to my carbs, fats, proteins, how my symptoms improve. So that's an easy way to do it. Now, yes, it's going to take time, but it's okay. It's going to take time, but once you get it, right? And you may just have to make minor tweaks along the way. So perimenopause, as I've talked about before, is a catabolic state. Estrogen and our androgen hormones are anabolic. They help us build muscle. And over time, we are losing lean mass, but also we are not moving as much. We are more sedentary, and our basal metabolic rate does decrease, which is where people say my metabolism is broken or your metabolism is adapted, whatever. We want to be able to preserve that muscle as much as we can. And again, protein is going to be helpful for that as well. And so eating more strategically is the answer, not the way that we have been eating. The way that you have been eating, the really, low calorie diets, very restrictive diets, restricting even types of foods that doesn't serve you in this process, which is great. Think about that. You've been dieting fucking sucks. And I'm telling you, we need to eat strategically and not necessarily be a diet. This is the way I now eat, right? And that's not to say that you don't have exceptions, but they're not the rule. The exceptions are going to the anniversary dinner and having the sugary thing. That's not the rule. That's the exception to the rule. And so nutrition is strategic. We're feeling like a leader. We're feeling for our brain health, our bone health, our muscle health. We are no longer fueling to diet and shrink. Okay, play number 2. Train for strength, not burnout. We are trading in the long cardio for smart, periodized lifting. I know, but what about my cardiovascular health, Christina? I will get into that. Think strength training, of course, resistance training. And again, a lot of people out there are going to tell you, well, just take these 2-pound weights and do 100 reps. Sure, that's a great way to get somewhere, but that sounds miserable. So we want to think about strength training and intensity of strength training. So what does intensity look like? We want to say I give you a workout, we'll call a hypertrophy workout, 8 to 12 reps. You will want to start at 8 reps, but your perfectionistic mindset wants to start at 12 reps. I see it all the time. And I tell clients, okay, I see that you're doing 12. It's like, oh, yay, look, I won. I did the most. That's not how this works. We're going to start at 8. reps. We're going to find a challenging weight at 8 reps. And what does a challenging weight feel like at 8 reps? Well, those last few reps should slow down. They should feel shaky. They should feel a little bit like, I don't know, can I do one more? Can I do 2 more? If the answer is I can only do 1 more, then you're good, right? You probably don't need to add any more reps. But what we like to say in this world is you have 1 to 2 reps in reserve or reps in the tank. So meaning I choose a challenging weight, so around rep 6, 7, then 8. The intensity is not as intense. You're not huffing and puffing. You're not sweating like crazy. You're just doing low impact conditioning. It's still an impact on your nervous system. There's still a stress on that muscle, which ultimately is going to help it build, right? Because we put stress on it through the weight, then went through recovery, we build back stronger. And for a lot of you out there, this is a big shift because you've been the cortisol junkie, cardio bunny queens, that everything needs to be super sweaty. If I'm not dead on the floor, it wasn't a good workout. If I'm not, huffing and puffing, then it didn't mean anything. That is not how it works anymore. Your body does not manage stress like it used to in this changing time because, again, estrogen helps us to manage stress. And when we are doing all of the cardio and high intensity, we don't have the capacity to manage it. So also, as I talked about earlier in the nutrition, perimenopause is a catabolic state. High cardio is also a catabolic state. Catabolic means breaks down muscle or breaks down, right? Anabolic means builds up. So strength training helps to, as I just said, build up, especially during recovery. Then also with all the cardio, you're burning those calories in that moment. And then there's no, calorie burn necessarily afterwards. Whereas in strength training, we are not only burning those calories, building and all of the things in the moment, but then the recovery process, we are then burning calories thereafter, upwards of 72 hours afterwards. So the workout should build you. Why? You will increase your metabolism, the more muscle that we have. You will increase your bone density and your bone health, I should say, which is incredibly important for longevity of not falling and breaking. I learned how to snowboard at 40 years old and I should have broke. I did not. I did my DEXA scan. I'm in the top 1% for my age in bone health. And I love that. You'll hear me say that on our next interview where we talk about that. Obviously, having a higher metabolism is going to help you with losing some of that visceral and subcutaneous fat. So the fat over your organs versus the fat underneath your skin. And, being stronger is fucking hot. You're going to look different the more muscle that you put on your body. Obviously, with the changes then with the nutrition, those two things together, doing both over time can be in your favor. There's plenty of women that I follow who are in their 50s and beyond who follow this playbook and look absolutely fabulous. Now, I don't know what they're doing. I'm assuming that they say they're strength training and eating. Again, I don't know them personally, so I just want to throw that disclaimer. All right, playbook number 3, we need to rewire our self-talk. Okay, your body isn't betraying you. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and it's asking you to lead it in a different way. And you have to do that. The thing that's going to hurt your body the most is trying to lead it from your 30-something way or even your 20-something way. We need to lead our bodies from our 40-plus something way. And when we do that, our bodies will respond and take care of us just like we've taken care of it. So what does that mean, right? We want to ditch that narrative. Like I said, in my continuing education, they pointed out the way that you think about the transition into perimenopause. Your body affects your mood more than other things. Because the belief that I'm just getting old, like this sucks, my body just isn't mine, it's very negative. That's only going to exacerbate our other feelings. Now, yes, again, the changes in hormone do change our neurotransmitters, specifically serotonin and dopamine. So then we have this physiological change happening in our brain, or cognitive change, on top of this kind of Eeyore, woe is me mindset. It's not a good look. Okay. So we want to think about, instead of what is wrong with me, think about what does my body need right now? And then again, educating yourself on how to meet that need, because again, what you know now may not support that. Now, speaking of support, play number 4 is building a support system, not a to-do list. So we don't need new supplements, new protocols, new planners, right? You need a community. You need people who understand you. You need permission to be witnessed, and we need a little bit of fucking relatability, right? I love having these conversations. I am obsessed with friends reaching out to me being like, hey, I went to the doctor. They said I was fine. And we're having a conversation about it. And I'm able to help them. Obviously, I am someone who's educating myself in this. And we talk about it with our clients. We talk about it in our groups. Like, these are things that we don't want you to feel stigmatized or like something's wrong with you. These are conversations that we need to be having in the workplace, right? If you have a relationship with your boss, explain to them, or HR, say, hey, look, I'm going through perimenopause. I am feeling X, Y, and Z way. And I want to ensure that I'm safe here, that I have, I can use my sick time for these reasons, or whatever that looks like. In my continuing ed, there was, I think it was, my notes are in the house. There's $1 billion lost each year, billions of dollars lost in people stepping away from work because of perimenopause, billions of dollars, right? So I kind of went on a tangent about work, but coming back to your community, having those few people who get it, or like in my case, and now here we go, my new program that I'm announcing right now, the Mindset of Menopause, will be a cohort-style program with a community that are all working on the same things. The Mindset of Menopause program is going to include everything that I have learned around the mindset and mental health challenges around the perimenopause transition, menopause as well, right? As on top of everything that I've educated myself on: nutrition, exercise, and stress management, obviously sleep, recovery. It'll be one place where you get all of that in one program, and the community of women to help support you. And also, we're going to add on optional testing with the providers that I have connected with to help you, guide you. Now, they can't provide you hormonal therapy if you're not in the same state as them, but they can definitely point you into the right direction. And then we will have all of the resources that you can then choose from to help connect you with providers and so on. We will have access to our full script and supplements that we do recommend, because I do take supplements, but again, it's not highest on my list. I want to do the things that I talked about today first, then see what I need to supplement, right? And so that is something that I am so excited. I'm going to put a waiting list link in the show notes below, because I'm alone. I mean, it's just me now, right, guys? It's me and the mindset of matter. And so you're going to notice that a lot of the style of coaching that I do will be cohort style. There is opportunity to work with me one-on-one, but that's going to be a very concierge different service. But I can only take so many people at a time, because I expect a certain level of coaching that if I get if there's too many people, then it can compromise that level of coaching that I expect from myself. So if you are interested, I will put you on the wait list. Obviously, I will send you information as we go. Okay, last thing is I want to talk about how to stop gaslighting yourself, right? And start leading when it comes to perimenopause. Like, your symptoms are data, right? They're data of what's happening in your body. You have not failed. Your body is not, broken. You're just in the process, and your body is transitioning. I mean, think about when you got your period. That was a whole situation. I cried for like days. And then finally I started bleeding. I was like, oh, interesting. And was it your fault then? It's not your fault now, right? So you're it's not your fault, but you are responsible for how you respond to it, and how you respond to it will make a big difference. And the good news is obviously you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to do it differently. You have to do it differently than you've been doing your, up to this point when it comes to, health and wellness. Start with your food, shift your training, start looking at your mental health, start looking at how you're resting. I will continue to be an advocate to educate for you as this is become part of my specialty. And if you are our client, that high achieving woman who's very perfectionistic, type A, all or nothing, pass fail, then also I'm going through the transition of perimenopause and or menopause transition in general. It's a mind fuck. So stay with me. I will guide you through it. Okay, let's keep this conversation going. If this episode lit a fire in you, you feel seen and validated, I want to, again, remind you that the next round for you is the Mindset of Menopause program. We are accepting waitlisters now. This is not cookie cutter hormone fix. Again, it's a full spectrum upgrade for your mind, metabolism, and movement, delivered with structure and, of course, soul, because hello, it's me. Check out the show notes again for that. If someone in your life needs to hear this, this would be a great thing to send to your partners, right? Men need to get into this conversation as well. Your partners need to learn as well. I'm educating my husband as much as I'm educating myself. Educate your friends, share this podcast with them if needed. I will continue this conversation for us because I believe in it wholeheartedly. And I will tell you guys something. Research on menopause and mental health is not something that is vast. It is limited. And so what I get to do is work with you, understanding mental health, as well as understanding what research therapeutic approaches have been beneficial through this transition, and create a coaching experience like no other. So that is that. Sorry, I feel like I got salesy there. That was weird. Don't want to be salesy. I just want to be helpful. Other than that, if you guys haven't already, make sure to follow this podcast wherever you're listening to it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and make sure that notification bell is on so you never miss any content. Again, I'm alone and there's been a lot of change. So a 5-star rating and review of this new would be, it'd be a birthday present. And my birthday is in January, but Christmas, I would love that, you guys. Other than that, I'm going to leave you the same way I do every episode, reminding you what you see in your mind, you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.